We all have different parts of ourselves. You know, there's the part of you that wants to have that third slice of chocolate cake, and the part of you that knows that's probably not the best idea. There's the part of you that wants to look for another job, and a part of you that wants to stay where you are. And then, of course, there's a part of you that wants to start that new workout routine, and a part of you that really doesn't. I mean, I could go on, right? Parts work is an umbrella term for any sort of therapy or coaching where you separate these different parts of yourself into their own personalities, and you get to know these personalities. You understand how they feel, what they want, what their goals are, and what their desires are. So if you're not going to the gym, instead of just labeling yourself as lazy or unmotivated, you start to actually get to know the part of yourself that doesn't want to go. How are they feeling about the gym? Are they scared of something? Are they worried that something bad's going to happen? What's their goal and what's their desire? Once you start to understand that, it makes everything make so much more sense. And that's why I love parts work. And I want to shout from the rooftops how amazing parts work is because it makes everything we do as human beings make absolute perfect sense. All the anxiety, the depression, the indecision, the flip-flopping, the lack of commitment, the emotional reactions, anything that annoys you, the things that make you feel like you're kind of crazy or broken, or there's something wrong with you. All of these things, when we start looking at them through the lens of parts work, start to make absolute perfect sense. So the main goal of parts work is to get all of these parts on the same page and aligned with your adult self. Your adult self is the mature decision maker, the one that holds the bigger picture for your life and who is clear on the way you want to show up in the world and what your values are. Now, the idea here is to get everybody on board with this adult self so you can actually live the life that you want to live without being held back by these other parts. So when it comes to parts work, depending on how your therapist or your coach has been trained, they might use all sorts of fancy terms for these different parts. But after 15 years of doing this work, I personally like to keep it simple. So I really focus on 3 parts, and that is your inner critic, your inner child, and your adult self. Especially if you're new to this, it can get really confusing to keep all of these labels clear in your head. So for now, just really focus on these 3 because I find that they're pretty easy to identify and recognize in your own life. Then once you have a good handle on these 3, then you can start bringing in other parts as much as they make sense to you, but really focusing on these 3 can help keep things simple for now. So now take a moment and think about that inner voice in your head that tells you that you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not pretty enough or handsome enough or whatever it is. And this part is the inner critic. This part is judging you and everybody else. It's telling you all the things you should do, you have to do, all of the obligations. It really keeps the rule book for life of all the rules for you and all the rules for everybody else. Now, this doesn't mean that this part is bad and we want to get rid of this part. In fact, we don't want to get rid of any of the parts. This part is very helpful, but I'll go into that in another video. Then there's the inner child. And I know my inner child would love to just kind of stay in bed and throw the covers over her head and never come out. This is the part that often feels angry or scared or sad, confused, lost, insecure, rebellious, and really unsure of their next move. And believe me, this isn't the only part of the inner child, just like the inner critic isn't just critical. But again, that's a video for another time. Right now, we just want to kind of get familiar with this part of yourself that feels young, feels small, and feels like it doesn't really want to show up much in the world. Then there's the adult self. And like I said, this part is the mature, logical, rational part of yourself that likes to show up to the party every once in a while. The adult is like the CEO of the company. They hold the bigger vision and then help get everybody on the same page so they can execute what needs to be done in order to make the goal happen. So for example, if the adult has the goal of being healthy and being in shape, then going to the gym is in line with that goal. But if the critic starts taking over, the critic might say, you have to work out 5 hours a day, every single day of the week. That's not aligned with being healthy, right? So we have to start kind of recognizing when the critic and when the inner child take over and start pretending to be the adult. So this might make more sense if you think about what was your life like as a kid. For some, maybe you were super responsible. Maybe you were a caretaker to other children or to your parents. And maybe you learned how to be very responsible at a young age. So that means that your inner child might act like a very mature, responsible adult, but really it might be coming from that inner child. Or if you were raised in a house where you got in trouble a lot or you were criticized a lot, maybe there was just a lot of judgment in the house, then that would mean that your inner critic is probably running the show because you saw adults being really critical when you were a kid. So part of this is understanding why we do the things we do and getting that adult to be strong enough to recognize, hey, critic, I hear you, but we're going to do it this way. Or, hey, inner child, I understand you're feeling scared, but we're going to move forward anyway. So it's about strengthening that adult so you can move forward with the life that you want. And if you want to see which part of yourself is running your life, then go ahead and click the link below and take the free quiz to figure out which one of these parts is driving your life. All right, so now I'm going to use an example of getting a new job and then run it through the parts work model. So say you want to change jobs, but you're having a hard time getting motivated to actually look for a new job. On the surface, it might look like you're lazy or unmotivated or just stuck. But really, there's a whole internal world happening that could really give you a lot of insight to why you might be having a hard time moving forward with this goal. And by the way, you can use this with anything. It can be used with relationship issues, doing chores, even going to the grocery store. We all have these different parts and they all feel different ways about the things that we do in our lives. So taking the time to understand them can be super helpful. So the first step is to acknowledge that these parts exist. There's a part of me that wants to look for a new job and a part of me that really doesn't. Just that alone can help us start to understand that there's not just one thing going on here. And the second step is to hear from the different parts and get to know what they really feel and think about the situation. So let's go ahead and hear from the different parts. You want to quit your job? In this economy, are you crazy? I mean, you were lucky enough to get this job. Who says you're gonna get another one? Your resume is not that impressive. Plus, these benefits are great, and you're not gonna find anything else at your skill level. I mean, you should just stay here and write it out. That's another 30 years. I don't want to get a new job. That means I have to go through the interview process, and I hate interviews. They make me all nervous and sweaty. It's not even the interview. I mean, what if I get one of those mean rejection letters and then I get rejected and then I don't have a job, and if I don't have a job, then I won't have any money, and if I don't have any money, I won't have anywhere to live, and if I don't have anywhere to live, then what's the point of even existing? I just don't want to stay at this job any longer. I feel like I've outgrown it and I'm ready for something new. And I know that getting a job is a big hassle, but I'm up for the challenge right now. And I think that it's all going to work out okay. So after listening to these three different parts, it's obvious that there's some internal conflict happening. And when there's internal conflict, that's usually when we feel stuck. So the critic is trying to protect by not doing anything risky, and the child is trying to protect by not being rejected and not being hurt. And the adult just wants to move forward with their life. But all three of them screaming at the same time usually means that nothing's really going to happen. So the next step is to strengthen the adult so they can get everybody on the same page with the mature, logical decision of the adult. All right, critic. So I hear you say that you don't think I'm qualified for much else and that I was lucky enough to get this job. Well, the truth is I was fully qualified for this job because I got it. And the only thing I've done is gained experience. So I think I'll be okay. Plus, I'm ready to ask for help around updating my resume, and I've been following some accounts that are really teaching me a lot when it comes to interview skills. So I think I'll be pretty good there too. But how about this? How about I don't put in my notice until I have something lined up that I know works for me? Fine. But you better have something lined up before you put in your notice. I don't want to add another thing to my worry list. Okay, sounds good. An inner child, I hear you. It's okay to be scared of the interview process. I get it. But you know what? It is not your job to do the interview. I'm the adult. It's my job. I will take care of everything. I've done this before and I'll do it again. And I will make sure to keep us safe. And I get the rejection can sting and not feel good. But just remember that this has nothing to do with you as a person. Rejection is just a redirection. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. I'm here to take care of you. I'm the adult. This isn't your job. In other videos, I'll talk more about what these conversations between these different parts can look like. But for right now, I just wanted to give you the broad concept. So go ahead and comment below. Which one of these parts did you relate with most? And no matter which one you put, I guarantee that there's other people who feel the same exact way. Because even though humans are pretty complex, we're all pretty similar too. So to recap, the goal of parts work is to understand that we have these different parts of ourselves. Know that none of these parts are bad. It's all about just understanding why they feel the way they feel and why they do what they do. Then it's about strengthening the adult and getting the other parts on board with the adult's logical, mature way that they want to live life. I have been doing this work for 15 years, and it is the reason that I decided to become a coach and a licensed therapist. This model has helped me feel less crazy and less indecisive and less unsure of myself. It has also helped me gain more understanding and compassion, not only for myself, but for everybody else around me too. So if you want to learn more about these different parts of yourself, then go ahead and watch the rest of the videos in this series and subscribe for more content like this. And lastly, just remember, everything you do makes absolute perfect sense. It's just about taking the time to figure out why.